The United States has lifted all of the restrictions on the ways in which it interacts with Taiwan.
And what does that even mean? Well, today we have an insider with us, the former U.S. representative to Taiwan, to tell us all about it. I'm Natalie Tso.
And I'm Andrew Ryan. Let's start with a look at the stories on our radar.
The U.S. State Department has canceled a planned visit to Taiwan by the U.S. ambassador to the United Nations, Kelly Craft. In fact, all State Department officials are canceling travel plans and staying put ahead of the inauguration of Joe Biden. Taiwan's Foreign Ministry and Presidential Office have expressed their regret by saying they understand the decision. Taiwan has reported 2 domestic cases of COVID-19 at a hospital in northern Taiwan, including the first case of a local doctor contracting the virus. Both patients work at the same hospital. Officials believe one of them was infected due to mistakes in the care process, and that he infected the other patient, who is his girlfriend. Officials have traced the pair's movements over the days leading up to their diagnosis. Want to make a restaurant reservation over the Lunar New Year? Well, you're too late. People are planning to go out in droves over next month's holiday, despite concerns about COVID-19. In fact, the pandemic may be partly responsible. With international travel out of the question, many people are looking for ways to celebrate in Taiwan. As the mercury plunges across Taiwan, many students can only shiver. Although Education Ministry guidelines allow students to wear warm clothing over their uniforms, a recent survey shows that only half of schools allow it. The group behind the survey wants random inspections to make sure schools are letting kids wear coats.
This past weekend, U.S. Secretary of State Mike Pompeo lifted the restrictions on how the U.S. interacts with Taiwan.
Now, those restrictions had been in place since 1979, when the United States broke official diplomatic ties with Taiwan and set them up with China. Now, this is a bold move that's coming with less than 2 weeks remaining before the end of the Trump administration.
For years, the United States has restricted how its officials interact with Taiwan. That's to appease China, which considers Taiwan part of its territory and not a separate country. Those self-imposed restrictions came to an end last Saturday, following a statement by U.S. Secretary of State Mike Pompeo. The statement talks about complex internal restrictions regulating exchanges with Taiwan. It says the U.S. government took those actions unilaterally in an attempt to appease the communist regime in Beijing, but no more. In 2015, Tsai Ing-wen was able to enter the U.S. State Department. That was when she was still a candidate for president. But for years, Taiwan's high-ranking officials have been banned from visiting the White House. Taiwan's representative to the U.S. has not been allowed at the State Department, and Taiwan's national flag could not be flown at sensitive locations. But now all those restrictions have been lifted. Here's Foreign Minister Joseph Wu's response to the announcement on Monday.
We've
been working on this for some time now, he says. The reason why the U.S. and Taiwan have been able to elevate their mutual trust, the foreign minister says, is because Taiwan has been undertaking a pragmatic and responsible foreign policy. But all of this is taking place less than 2 weeks before a new president, Joe Biden, takes office. That means it will be his administration that will have to deal with the latest hurdle in U.S.-China ties.
To learn more about this groundbreaking move, we turn to a former U.S. representative to Taiwan for an inside look.
That's right. Natalie spoke with the former director of the American Institute in Taiwan, or AIT, William Stanton.
Tell us, what do you think of this decision? How big a deal is this?
Well, I think it's a very big deal. Anytime a Secretary of State makes a policy announcement, particularly on a subject that is not often directly addressed by a Secretary of State, I think it's a very big deal. The fact that Secretary Pompeo, particularly only 9 or 10 days before the end of the Trump administration, would make this announcement, I think gives it added importance, because I think it demonstrates that he really wanted to do this before the end of the administration. I was quite surprised, and I thought it was very significant. But the big question now is, because it's the end of the Trump administration, what will happen next?
Well, can you tell me what you think this really entails, though? What are the implications practically?
Yeah, well, that's one of the things we have to recognize is that a lot of the self-imposed restrictions have slowly disappeared over the years. My understanding is that they first, or at least according to one scholar I've spoken to, they go back to about 1978, when somebody began to work on what it would mean, and the State Department began to work on what it would mean if we broke relations with Taiwan, established them with China. In fact, I found just last night, looking because I knew I'd be talking to you, a piece of paper, unclassified, with no date on it, but I'm pretty sure I was given before I came to Taiwan in 1986 for 10 months of language training. And it was basically, the title of it was Do's and Don'ts in Taiwan, or with regard to Taiwan.
Ah.
And
You have that paper with you?
yeah, I do.
Can I see it?
Yeah, sure.
So what are some of the things here? Do use Taiwan, don't use Republic of China. Interesting. Do use economy, island, area, or jurisdiction, don't use country.
Yeah, what they didn't take into account, if you ever try to talk about something and you're talking about a country and you don't use the word country, how awkward in English it sounds and how silly at times. I once went to a meeting with a high-level economic representative from the United States, and he was meeting with President Ma Ying-jeou, and repeatedly he referred to Taiwan as an important economic entity.
Oh my God.
And
So that is so
that sounds
strange.
It's
It's
so
really
strange. It's so strange. It's so bizarre in English. So many of the recommendations were like that, and practically speaking, were difficult to use.
Do use Taiwan authorities, don't use Taiwan government.
Yeah.
Wow. Do use Taiwan representatives, don't use government officials.
Right.
Do use Taiwan as an adjective, don't use Taiwanese, except referring to descendants of pre-1949 inhabitants.
In fact, I was reprimanded once when early on I'm in the State Department. I was writing something and I put Taiwanese believe. I don't know what the thing was, but somebody at a higher level called me up and basically reprimanded me because he said that's an incorrect use of Taiwanese, that you can only use Taiwanese if you're referring to the pre-1949
The people who lived here before the Chiang Kai-shek and his whole group.
Well, I guess they could have added, I don't know, but I guess they excluded even the Yuanjumin, who had been here even
the
longer.
indigenous. Mm-hmm.
So things like that, also in English, so you were always writing the people of Taiwan or the Taiwan people, which is odd in English because you never put a noun before a noun.
Right, you should say the Taiwanese. Right? Now they say Taiwanese.
Well, by the time I was AIT director, I always said the Taiwanese.
So this didn't, they changed by the time you were AIT director?
Well, it didn't change. I mean, it never, as far as I knew, went out of existence. But over time, people just weren't keeping up with those rules.
So were you able to call Taiwan a country when you were AIT director?
I always referred to Taiwan as a country.
You did?
Yeah.
So things evolved
and nobody ever
changed.
noticed, I don't think. I mean, I would say Taiwan, is an important country. And I would also refer to the Taiwanese government. And maybe I was too insignificant because I never remember even the Chinese government complaining about my usage, much less people in Washington.
When he was AIT director, Stanton flouted one of the restrictions. He tells us how he was the first to fly the American flag at AIT since 1979.
One of the changes I made myself, but I did it with sort of a wink and a nod from Washington, was I was, for the first time, they were always concerned about symbols, and I raised the American flag over AIT. And I did that because I thought, if we were the American Institute of Insurance, as Americans, we could put up a flag. Americans everywhere have the right to put up a flag. Why should we be deprived of that right? So, but what I did was I talked to somebody who was a retired, very high-level official, and I said, if I go through channels, I'm not sure this will work. I want you to talk to somebody at a very high level at the White House or in the State Department.
So they were okay with that?
And
Obviously,
that person supported it.
Oh, that's
He
great.
wanted the flag to go up. So he called me up one day and he just said, go ahead. And we had a ceremony the next day and we rose the flag. And I remember the day, although I can't find a picture at the moment, there was one of our Taiwanese guards who had been around when we had lowered the flag over our embassy when we had broken relations back in 1979. He was there, and he actually cried.
Oh.
It was so moving for him, and it was moving for all of us. We were very excited and happy about that. So, the thing was, I also knew once you put up the flag, nobody can ask you to take it down again. I mean, that's very un-American. Take down the American flag? No, it's not going to happen. So I knew that was a fait accompli.
That must have been an amazing moment to be there when they were raising the flag for the first time in like 40 years. That must have been very emotional, yeah? You know, when I heard that they were lifting the restrictions on the way the United States interacts with Taiwan, I was thinking two things. One is, like for a lot of diplomats, this must be a relief. You don't have to watch your words, right?
All those do's and don'ts.
Yeah. And the second thing is I was wondering, you know, is this maybe a provocative move, like one last jab at China before Trump leaves office?
I was thinking the same thing, or maybe one jab at the Biden administration,
yeah,
giving
also.
them, you know, a big challenge. But actually, after talking to Stanton, he explained how Pompeo has been very pro-Taiwan all this time and really wants to give Taiwan the dignity that it deserves. So it's great to see that, and it was great to be able to talk to a former AIT director about it.
Yeah, absolutely. And we'll have the full interview for you on Facebook and YouTube. Check it out.
This is what my Taiwanese passport looks like. Get a good look at it because that's the last time you might see that design. On January 11th, the Ministry of Foreign Affairs started handing out new passports with new designs. It looks like this. Why did the government decide to design a new passport? The story goes back to July 22nd of last year. On that day, Taiwan's legislature passed a resolution to emphasize Taiwan on passports and the national airline. As I've mentioned before, Taiwan is officially referred to as the Republic of China. If you don't remember why, then I highly suggest you go back to the June 18th episode of Hashtag Taiwan, where I go over the history behind that designation. In fact, that episode also talked about changes to passports and airplanes. Between then and now, the government finalized and rolled out a new passport design. Let's review. This is the old design and this is the new design. The first thing you might notice is that the Republic of China is gone. However, it's still there in Chinese, and the English version is now around the sun insignia on the center of the cover. If you squint, you can still see it. The word Taiwan, on the other hand, has been enlarged. On January 11th, President Tsai Ing-wen published a post on social media commemorating the new passport's rollout. She said that it was important to emphasize Taiwan so that the international community doesn't neglect the country's existence. If a bigger Taiwan weren't already reason enough to get a new passport, Taiwan's Ministry of Foreign Affairs announced on social media that those that applied for the new passport on the first day would get one of two special gifts. One is a traditional spring couplet which, when viewed upside down, reveals the message, "Pursue freedom and democracy." The other is a lucky luggage tag. What makes it lucky? I don't know, maybe the picture of a giant pigeon straight up sitting on an airplane? Anyway, Minister of Foreign Affairs Joseph Wu was at the consular office to make sure the rollout went smoothly. The Ministry of Foreign Affairs later posted this image about how useful Taiwan's passport is, enabling citizens to visit a lot of countries visa-free. The caption said, "The Taiwan Passport ranked 32nd in this year's Henley Passport Index, which puts it well ahead of a certain neighbor in 70th place." You know, maybe a couple of years ago, talk like that would have excited me, but these days, it's not really a story about the Ministry of Foreign Affairs if they're not throwing a little shade. Anyway, as much as I like this new passport design, I'm not going to be fighting anyone to get it. I mean, it's not like I can go anywhere right now anyway. Unlike Pigeon Boy over here, he about to go everywhere.
The name of today's brain game is Taiwan or Nah.
Ooh, I love this game.
I thought
Sounds
you would
like
like
fun.
that. So what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be showing you 8 pictures of snowy scenes around the world, and the two of you have to work together to guess where the picture was taken, whether it was in Taiwan or nah. If you can guess the location of the picture, I'll give you an extra point.
Oh, do we get to eat something after that? No.
There's no eating in the show.
I changed my mind. I don't like this game anymore.
I'll buy you some snow. Would you like to eat it? No, I don't.
Ice cream?
I think nah is the answer. All right, go.
There's some
Oh,
icicles.
wow, it's a tram. It's a tramway.
It's a ski lift.
But that's not Taiwan.
And
nah.
everything's frozen over.
We don't have
I
a
don't
ski
think there's
lift
ski
here.
lifts in Taiwan. That's a nah.
It's beautiful.
You are correct. That is a nah. That is a ski lift in Sweden.
Beautiful.
All right, let's have a look at our second picture.
Oh,
it's
those are some.
gorgeous.
There's a
mountains
mountain in the
back
distance.
that's all snowy, and then in
Snow
the
cap.
front there's like
It's in the front. It's
green
flowers
and
with green.
flowers.
There's
So,
some
question
That's
is-
not Taiwan.
Taiwan or not?
I say
No.
that is Taiwan.
You are correct.
Where?
That is Hualien. You can see in the foreground, it looks like it's summertime. Right?
Yeah.
Right, because it's in snow on the ground here.
Exactly.
Only in the mountains.
Yeah.
All right, let's check out our next photo.
Oh, that's wow. It's a lady taking wedding photos.
On a railing.
On a railing
near
during
pine
the
trees. That
snow.
is Taiwan. I think it is
That
Taiwan.
strikes me as a very Taiwanese thing to do. Yeah, I say that's
wedding
Taiwan.
photos.
Okay, you
in
are
the
correct.
snow.
That is Taiwan. That is
Right.
Yilan.
Yilan.
Taipan-san.
Oh,
Ooh, wow.
Taipan-san.
That's
Yes, I've
right.
been there. It's very cold up there.
Beautiful.
It's
An
beautiful.
altitude of 1,900 meters. Let's check out the next one.
Ooh, cabins.
Ooh.
Oh,
That could be Taiwan.
That is
Cabins
Taiwan.
in the snow.
That's
Is
Taiwan.
that-
That is indeed Taiwan. That is Fuzhou-san in Taichung.
oh, okay.
Have a look at
Sure.
the next one.
Ooh, that's beautiful. A red
looks like
two-story
Japan.
building with roofs that are all snowed on. Beautiful.
In the answer?
That's not Taiwan. That's Japan.
That is correct. That is Japan. That is snow over Zojoji Temple in Tokyo. Let's have a look at the next one.
It's like a spring in
It's
the
a-
middle of a
Pond or a lake?
Oh, 知道 Jiaominghu.
in the middle of the.
That is
Jiaominghu
correct.
is Jiaoming Lake. It's a beautiful lake on top of a mountain.
I've
That
never
is
been there.
correct. So Jiaminghu is located in Taidong. It is the second highest lake in Taiwan.
Oh wow.
All right, one more photo.
Planes landing in the snow?
Oh.
I don't think that's Taiwan.
No,
Is this
that's
something you can see in Taiwan?
no,
No.
not an airport. Not snow in an airport. That looks like LaGuardia.
That's Milwaukee. They're
Milwaukee.
de-icing a plane. That is something you
Milwaukee.
don't see in Taiwan. All right, final shot.
Bicycle in Taiwan.
It's a shirtless dude with a BMX bike in the middle of the snow.
Sounds like something Taiwan would
He's
do.
all over. He's
I
all
can
over
see
the
this in
news. That's Taiwan.
All right, so the answer, you got it. That is definitely Taiwan. That is also Taiping-shan in Yilan. So, I've enjoyed seeing all the images of people
Beautiful.
like seeing snow for the first time, perhaps.
Right.
So we're going to actually share with you a video that was taken shortly after one of the first snowfalls this year. Have a look.
Taiwan's mountains are in the grip of a strong cold snap that has sent temperatures down to the freezing point. This unusual cold has brought with it something else unusual for Taiwan: snowfall. While a few especially high mountains get a dusting or two each year, some places that saw snowfall Friday have been snow-free for years. Yilan's Taiping Mountain, for instance, saw 5 centimeters of snowfall in places, the mountain's first snowfall in 3 years. Taiwanese tourists, used to traveling abroad to see snow, have flocked to mountains like this one. With COVID-19 making international travel impossible, this is their only chance to see snow for now. Over 1,000 vehicles traveled up the mountain, carrying eager visitors. Authorities at the scenic area that covers the mountain are urging drivers to put chains on their tires and be careful when driving. These aren't motorists used to driving in true wintry conditions.
And our final question of the day, it's been so cold here. We want to know, how have you guys been staying warm? Leslie.
This is not how I've been staying warm. This is what I've learned. You gotta overestimate the cold, man. Like, you gotta overestimate it. You think about wearing 2 layers? Wear 3. 5 cups of hot tea? Why not make it a half dozen?
That's a good idea.
Natalie?
I've been taking some nice long hot baths. It's
Ooh.
a great way to de-stress as well.
Excellent. Well, mine has one thing in common with yours, Natalie.
Hot
Air.
Not my own hot air. What are you guys thinking? I know I have a lot of it. No, so we have this thing at home. It's like a little Japanese machine that pumps hot air into your bed.
Are you serious?
Like your whole quilt will like bulge up, and like it also
Wow.
kind of like, I guess, sterilizes the bed at the same time.
That
kills the
sounds-
mites.
That sounds
So
cool.
Toasty. That's all I have to say.
Wonderful.
So maybe you can try some of those different ways of staying warm in the winter in your part of the world. But for now, thank you for joining us for this edition of Taiwan Insider. Be sure to connect with us on social media.
Yes, leave a comment below. We would love to hear from you. And subscribe if you like our show. For Taiwan Insider, I'm Natalie Tso.
I'm Leslie Liao.
And I'm Andrew Ryan. See you next week.